Well, welcome back to the marketplace. Time for some show business. Well, Valentine's Day is more than just a celebration of love. It has grown into an economic driver in Ghana. Think about the chocolates going around. It's impacting businesses across sectors. Whilst the day is traditionally associated with romance, it also raises important cultural and financial conversations. How has Valentine's Day evolved in Ghana, and what does it mean for the economy? Well, on the marketplace today, we discuss the significance and economic impact of Val's Day with culture journalist Kenneth Aochidak, who joins me in studio. So, Val's Day, Ken, has become a big deal, and we are going to be talking about the economic impact of the day. But first, give us some cultural context. I mean, what Val's Day means.
I mean, essentially, like you already mentioned in your introduction, splendid introduction over there, it has always been about love and the sharing of it. I mean, in the traditional sense of things, we have always had our own ways of expressing love towards one another here in Africa, in Ghana. I mean, all the ethnic groups around the continents have had their own way of expressing, love to one another. And then there is the Western part, which has now seeped into our system, which has to do with the celebration in terms of Valentine's Day and choosing the day as the 14th of February to do that, express that very special emotion. And it has come with its own commercial, value, which has gradually been inculcated in the way Africans celebrate or share love to one another. And so that is how we got here. We have just, adopted the Western style of celebrating love, and
and it's become a thing. We saw Helen's report.
Exactly,
shopping center somewhere in town, everywhere was red. You know. And so that brings us to the economic aspect of it. I mean, what industries benefit from Val's Day celebration?
In terms of Valentine's Day, we know that the retail sector is a very big winner in that area. Mm-hmm. The hoteliers, space as well is one area that also benefits a lot.
There's event centers,
the people that are into event production, events, houses and all of that. They are all very heavily, inclined towards benefiting from this special day. Every 14th of February, every year they have very different packages that allow people who have their own way of, celebrating this. They help them do that and in turn make some commercial returns from that. And so the hoteliers industry, all of those other areas are places that really benefit.
Yeah, and we can see, I mean, from what's being shown as the percent planning to purchase top 5 gifts categories. Like, what are people buying for others? I saw at the reception, somebody actually had candy, so I'm not surprised, 56%.
Exactly.
Chocolates going around.
From the report that we just played, you saw that one of the things that the lady was selling was chocolate. And this is data from the United States of America. It was talking about how much people are projecting to spend today.
Okay.
2025, 14th of February. People are expected to spend about $27 billion in the US alone in terms of Valentine's Day. So all of that expenditure goes to Valentine's, activities. And so you find people, and this is like the top 5 things that people will be, the average American will be spending their, dollar on.
And I don't think it differs much here in Ghana because, like I pointed out, a lot of chocolate is going around. And then we have flowers. At the reception, I saw flowers. So 40% maybe, then greeting cards. Mm-hmm. And an evening out, which is something people do.
That is where the hoteliers industry comes in, because they organize
and the restaurants and
different types of foods for people to come in. If you cannot afford like a very big budget, they have very lucrative discounts that for people who would be willing to take advantage of this to share love with their family.
I don't know about jewelry though.
Jewelry is also something. I mean, in the US, it's the 5th most consumed thing that the average American would do in terms of Valentine's Day on this day. So it's quite something. I don't know the correlation between this and how Ghana is going to do in terms of the jewelry space, considering the fact that our gold exports are rising at the expense of cocoa production. Because last week or last 2 weeks, we did an article on myjoyonline.com by the research team who talked about how much increment Ghana was seeing in terms of gold exports, gold revenue exports, as against the cocoa sector, which would fall under the candy where the chocolate is
the only thing, and how much
it is affecting that.
The gold is going out, and so we are not benefiting much.
Exactly.
In terms of jewelry. Yeah. But I would say, though, on social media, I saw somebody bought a Jeep for their girlfriend. friend says he bought Sonata for his girlfriend. You wish.
Oh,
well,
wow.
so next, I mean, we're facing an economic challenge. I don't know how that has impacted on people's spending habits and if they're willing to spend so much this Val's Day. You know, usually during festive seasons, you hear the traders say, people are not buying much. How has that changed over time?
That has remained the same. We have still had people complain about the economy. First of all, we have inflation at about 23%, if I can remember, and we have we also have very poor figures when it comes to the employment rate in Ghana. So ideally, the people who usually are in the bracket of celebrating Val's Day are the youth. And the youth are complaining about these figures, looking at the inflation that we're having and the unemployment. You realize that there's very little money to go around, especially spending on a day such as this. And so people are taking advantage of that by cutting down how much they are spending on that. They are using alternatives such as someone may want to send a mobile money instead of an evening out. Instead of getting flowers, someone may convert that into maybe a little experience, maybe a certain, they could buy you a movie ticket to go see a movie. And that is the way of, sharing affection for another person. But they are finding very innovative ways to go around the economy that's not doing too well at the moment and still finding a way to...
I'm just wondering how we can make Val's Day a thing, like a major economic thing for the country, aside from what we are seeing here, people purchasing candy, flowers, greeting cards, and evening out. What can be done?
Exactly. So there have been very different marketing schemes that have developed over time. You have seen influencer marketing take over the country's marketing space for about a year or two now. I feel like if the necessary training and the necessary resources are pushed into that area as well, it's going to help market the country's where that going. I mean, a lot of some of these things come from other countries. We import some of these things to be able to celebrate these activities. And so if we find people that are in Ghana creating some of these things, and then we also find Ghanaians who are propelling the product and pushing it to the continent. I mean, there are different ways to do that. And if you use those innovative ways, I think there's going to be some improvement in how we celebrate Val's Day here in Ghana in the African context. Yeah,
we've got to go, Ken, but Ghanaians are asking, what are you doing this Val's Day for our mutual friend?
No, your guess is as good as mine.
Anyway, he doesn't want to say much. Ken Aochidaku, culture journalist, appreciate your time. Before we go, a look at today's top stories. Don't rush to scrap promised taxes if it risks revenue. Economist warns. We brought you that story. Also, government must balance politics and economic reality on taxes, says economist Dr. Priscilla Bafo, Chumesi Bafo. Yeah, myjournline.com/business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. We will be back next week. Enjoy your weekend. Hope you have some good time tonight, like Ken will.